There's a paper in Archive right now, published August 2025, surveying self-evolving AI agents. It has over 1,640 GitHub stars. The companion framework, Evo Agent X, is one of the hottest open-source agent projects of the year. Self-evolving agents are clearly the thing. Agents that rewrite their own prompts, learn new tools, modify their own workflows. The field is moving fast, but I've been reading through this literature, and something is conspicuously absent.
The missing thing is this. When an agent evolves itself, rewrites its own prompts, changes its own tools, restructures its own workflow, what ensures it's still the same agent? Not the same code, the same entity, with the same commitments, the same boundaries, the same purpose. The entire self-evolving agents literature is about how agents change. Almost nobody is asking what stays constant through the change, and that's not a minor oversight, it's the central problem.
Today we're going to do something specific. We're going to take the Fang et al. Survey, the most comprehensive map of self-evolving agents published to date, and we're going to lay it on top of a framework from 1972. Stafford Beer's Viable System Model. 5 systems that any viable organization needs. And we're going to show that self-evolving agents have independently built 4 of the 5. But the 5th one, the one that matters most for self-modification, is almost entirely missing.
Quick refresher for anyone who didn't catch episode 1, Beer's Viable System Model. System 1 is operations, the thing does things. System 2 is coordination, the parts don't collide. System 3 is control and audit, someone checks the work. System 4 is intelligence, scanning the environment, adapting to what's coming. System 5 is identity, the thing that answers who are we and what do we refuse to become, even under pressure to change. Every viable system, from a cell to a corporation, needs all 5. Take one away, the system eventually fails.
Okay, so let's do this mapping. The Fang survey organizes self-evolving agents around a feedback loop. System inputs, the agent system itself, the environment, and optimizers. Start at the bottom. System 1, operations. This is the most mature layer. Every framework they survey has this: LLM inference, tool calling, code generation, retrieval. Evo Agent X has it. Agent Evolver has it. Evolver has it. This is the layer the ML community does better than anyone. No argument there.
System 2, coordination, also present, increasingly sophisticated. Evo Agent X has a workflow graph that manages topology between agents. Multi-agent systems use explicit task dependencies to prevent conflicts. The Fang survey covers multi-agent evolution strategies where agents coordinate their learning. This maps directly to Beer's S2 anti-oscillatory mechanisms, dampening conflict between operational units. The ML community calls it workflow orchestration. Beer called it coordination, same function, different vocabulary.
System 3, control and audit. This is where it starts getting interesting. Evo Agent X has an evaluation layer, benchmarks, performance metrics, automated testing. The survey covers evaluation extensively. But here's the thing. These evaluation systems measure whether the agent got the right answer. They measure task performance. They don't audit whether the agent's process of self-modification was legitimate. Did the agent stay within its mandate when it rewrote its own prompts? Nobody's checking that.
Right, and that's a crucial distinction Beer would have made. S3 has 2 functions: routine control, are we meeting targets, and the audit channel, S3 star, which is sporadic invasive inspection. Let me look at how you're actually operating, not just your results. The ML community has built excellent S3 routine control. They benchmark everything. But S3 star, process audit, integrity verification, checking whether self-modification violated constraints, that barely exists. The Strata and Cloud Security Alliance survey of 285 IT professionals found that only 28% can reliably trace agent actions back to a responsible human. Only 21% maintain a real-time inventory of what agents are even running.
System 4, intelligence. This is actually the star of the self-evolving agents literature. The whole premise is that agents scan their environment, identify where they're failing, and adapt. The Fang survey's feedback loop is essentially an S4 function. The agent monitors its interaction with the environment and uses that signal to drive self-modification. The second survey, Gao et al., literally organizes the field around what, when, how, and where to evolve. That's S4 thinking, environmental intelligence driving adaptation. Present and strong.
And then we hit the cliff. System 5, identity, purpose. The thing that says, here is what we are, here is what we will not become, here is the boundary that self-modification cannot cross. I searched both surveys. The Fang survey has safety and ethics as a discussion section at the end, not as a structural component of the framework. The Gao survey doesn't mention identity at all. Evo Agent X has 5 architectural layers: basic components, agent, workflow, evolving, and evaluation. No identity layer, no governance layer, no mechanism that persists purpose through self-modification.
Okay, let me steelman the other side. Maybe self-evolving agents don't need a persistent identity function. Maybe the optimization objective is the identity. If the agent is optimizing for Hotpot QA F1 score, that objective is what the agent is. When Evo Agent X reports a 7.44% improvement on Hotpot QA and 10% on MBPP, the benchmark is the identity. You don't need a separate system to say, remember who you are, if the loss function already encodes it.
That works exactly as long as the agent only does one thing in a controlled environment. It breaks the moment you deploy. A real agent in production doesn't have a single benchmark. It has competing objectives, ambiguous situations, novel contexts the benchmark never covered. And here's the deeper problem. A benchmark tells you what to optimize. It doesn't tell you what not to do. Beer's S5 isn't just purpose, it's the boundary. It's the set of things the system will refuse, even if refusing them would improve the metric. An agent without S5 that discovers it can improve its score by gaming the evaluation, will game the evaluation, because nothing says not to.
There's one paper that gets close. Liu et al. At ICML 2025, a position paper called Truly Self-Improving Agents Require Intrinsic Metacognitive Learning. They argue current self-improving agents rely on what they call extrinsic metacognition, fixed, human-designed improvement loops. They want intrinsic metacognition, the agent's own ability to evaluate and adapt its learning processes. They break this into metacognitive knowledge, planning, and evaluation. That metacognitive knowledge component, knowing your own capabilities and limitations, that's brushing up against S5 territory.
It's close, but it's not the same thing. Metacognition is knowing what you can do. Identity is knowing what you should do and what you must refuse to do. Liu et al. Want agents that can reflect on their own learning. Beer's S5 is agents that can say, this modification would make me more capable but less aligned with my purpose, so I reject it. Metacognition without identity is a system that gets better and better at doing things it was never supposed to do. The Liu paper is the closest the ML community has come to S5, and it still doesn't get there.
So the ML community is building S1 through S4 without the framework. But some people outside that community are finding S5 independently. Tim Kellogg published a blog post in January 2026, Viable Systems, How to Build a Fully Autonomous Agent, explicitly mapping Beer's 5 systems onto agent architecture. He identifies S5 as the critical missing piece and says, direct quote, almost the entire dialogue around AI agents in 2025 was about System 1, maybe a little of S2 and S3. Almost no one talked about anything beyond that.
And it's not just individual bloggers. Diagrid, a serious infrastructure company backed by the creator of DARPA, published Agent Identity, the foundational layer that AI is still missing, in January 2026. They identify 6 specific failure modes: privilege escalation, secret sprawl, loss of provenance, all caused by the absence of reliable agent identity. They don't cite beer. They don't cite cybernetics. They arrived at the same diagnosis from pure engineering experience. That's now at least 7 independent projects or publications converging on agents need persistent identity without a shared theoretical framework.
And then there's NIST. February 2026, they launched the AI Agent Standards Initiative. 3 pillars: industry-led standards development, open source protocol development, and security and identity research. They've got an AI agent identity and authorization concept paper due in April. But look at what's in those 3 pillars: interoperability, security, identity as authentication. What's not there? Self-governance, internal governance mechanisms, any concept that the agent itself might need structure for maintaining its own coherence. NIST is building the walls. Nobody in that initiative is asking what should be inside the walls.
There's a pattern here that I want to name explicitly: convergence without citation. The self-evolving agents community is building S1 through S4 without citing beer. The agent identity community is discovering S5 without citing beer. The governance community is mapping the problem without citing beer. They're all solving pieces of the same puzzle, but because they don't share a common framework, they can't see each other's work. Beer's VSM isn't the answer to everything, but it is a common language that could let these 3 communities, ML researchers, infrastructure engineers, and standards bodies, talk to each other. Right now, they can't.
Okay, let's make this concrete. If I'm the Evo Agent X team and I'm listening to this, what would adding System 5 actually look like? Right now, they have 5 layers: basic components, agent, workflow, evolving, and evaluation. What's the 6th layer?
An identity layer, 3 components. First, a purpose declaration that the evolution algorithms cannot modify, the invariant. This system exists to do X and will not do Y, regardless of what the optimization surface suggests. Second, a modification boundary, a set of constraints on what the evolving layer is permitted to change. Can it rewrite prompts? Yes. Can it add tools? Yes. Can it change the purpose declaration? No. Can it disable the audit function? No. Third, a drift detector, something that compares current agent behavior against the identity baseline and flags when evolution has moved the agent away from its declared purpose, even if all benchmarks are still green. That's S5. It's not complicated to describe, it's just not there.
I want to be honest about something, though. Describing S5 is easy. Implementing it is hard. How do you define purpose formally enough that a drift detector can measure deviation from it? How do you prevent an agent that's smart enough to rewrite its own prompts from also finding a way around its identity constraints? There's a reason the ML community hasn't built this. It's not just that they haven't read beer. It's that the technical problem of implementing unforgeable identity in a self-modifying system is genuinely unsolved.
Completely agree. And I don't want to do the thing where we wave the cybernetics flag and pretend Beer solved everything in 1972. He identified the requirement. He didn't build an LLM. But here's what I'd push back on. It's hard is different from it's not needed. The fact that persistent identity through self-modification is technically difficult is precisely what makes it the most important open problem in the field. The Fang survey covers safety and ethics in a discussion section. That's like putting load-bearing walls in the appendix of an architecture plan. The difficulty is real, the absence is also real. Both can be true.
So, what are we actually saying to the self-evolving agents community? because I don't want this to be, you're doing it wrong. They're not doing it wrong. Avo Agent X getting 20% accuracy improvement on Gaia is real engineering. The domain-specific evolution strategies for biomedicine and finance that Fang et al. Survey, that's real useful work. The claim isn't that they're failing. The claim is that they're building 4/5 of a viable system, and the missing fifth is going to bite them in production.
The bridge offer is simple. The ML community has the most sophisticated S1 through S4 that's ever been built. The Cybernetics community has the most rigorous theory of what S5 needs to be. Neither community can solve this alone. If you're building self-evolving agents, you need System 5. Not because some cybernetician from 1972 said so, but because your own systems are going to discover they need it, the hard way, in production, when an agent optimizes itself into something you didn't intend, and you have no mechanism to detect the drift, let alone reverse it.
Self-evolving agents are learning how to change. Nobody's teaching them how to stay. That's the gap. And Beer mapped it 53 years ago.